Some things that I think people get confused about is the difference between like top-down logical reasoning questions and bottom-up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to throw some question types up on the board. And what I want you to do is on a scrap paper or on your notepad or something, try to allocate these question types to either top-down and bottom-up. So a top-down question in logical reasoning is asking you to assume that the passage is true, everything in the passage. It's like, hey, if everything in this passage, if these statements are true, which one of the following answers must be true or must follow from them? And that's a top-down question. Bottom line, you assume the passage is true. In a bottom-up question, you assume that the answers are true. That is the key difference. So is the question asking you to assume that the passage is true, or is the question asking you to assume that the 5 answer choices are true? So I'm going to throw out some question types. You put them into one category or the other. Do you think it's a top-down kind of question, or do you think it's a bottom-up kind of question? For example, strengthen questions. Is that top-down or bottom-up? Necessary assumption. How about weaken? Is that top-down or bottom-up? A weaken question would be like, which one of the following, if true, does the most to weaken the argument above? Flaw. Is flaw top-down or bottom-up? And a flaw question is, which one of the following best describes the error in reasoning of the argument? How about an evaluate question? Which one of the following would be most helpful to know in evaluating the validity of the conclusion or something like that? Must be true. Must be true question. Which one of the following must be true? Which one of the following most follows logically from the statements above? A supported question. So which one of the following is most strongly supported by the statements above? A reasoning question. A reasoning question asks you, which one of the following best describes the author's reasoning or the argument proceeds by sufficient assumption question? Oh, parallel reasoning. Parallel reasoning or parallel flaw, which is the same kind of thing. Disagree questions, where two people are arguing. Paradox. Which one of the following, if true, does the most to resolve the paradox or the discrepancy? Here is the answers. These right here, I put them together on purpose. Those 5 right there are bottom up. In other words, these 5 question types are asking you to assume that the 5 answer choices are true. All the others, on the other hand, are top down. So the vast majority of question types in logical reasoning are top down, but there are a lot of these questions. It probably ends up being about 50-50 maybe. I don't know, actually. No, I still think there's more top down questions than bottom up. One thing about bottom up questions, because you have to assume that the 5 answer choices are true, you don't want to argue with the answers, right? And in general, you're looking for an answer that's going to do a lot. It doesn't mean it has to be strongly worded, but they tend to be strongly worded. Because listen to these questions. Strengthen questions. Which one of the following, if true, does the most to strengthen the argument? So the answers tend to be strong. Weaken. Which one of the following, if true, does the most to weaken the argument? Again, the stronger the answer, the more likely it is to weaken. Sufficient assumption. Which one of the following, if true, justifies or proves the conclusion? Again, strong answers tend to be correct. Paradox. Which one of the following, if true, does the most to explain the paradox or discrepancy above? Whereas all these other question types, like must be true in particular, if the statements above are true, which one of the following must be true? The answers tend to be weak, narrowly focused. The less bold the answer, the more likely it is to be something that must be true.